Give everybody an update on who is part of the Sendais service. So Sendais is the Special Educational Needs and Disability Information Advice Support Service. This is myself, Lisa. Anne is the person who, when families first make contact with Sendais, Anne is the person who would ordinarily answer the telephone or respond to that email that would come in. So Anne is our Sendais support officer. Ruth's here today. Where are you in this room, Ruth?
No, she's hiding around the corner.
She's hiding around the corner. Ruth joined our team in January, and Ruth is the Short Breaks Solutions Officer. Then we have Catherine and Angela, who they're not here today, but Catherine and Angela are our Sendais officers. So both Catherine, Angela and I have a caseload and work directly with families. And then Heidi joined us in April, and again Heidi holds a Sendais caseload, but she also has specific responsibility to support families who have children with autism or social communication difficulties, with or without a diagnosis. So that at the moment is the Sendais team.
No, the clicker's definitely not working. I'll just click on the screen.
Okay. So just to give you a bit of an overview of what our referral data has been, on average we get about 120 calls or inquiries into the service every single week. Our telephone helpline is constantly busy. And families will often say to us, I've been ringing and I can't get through. That's because that single helpline is just constantly busy with inquiries coming in. But in, so far this year, we've had over 4,500 inquiries. So those are primarily from parents who are contacting the service. We do have some third-party referrals, so maybe a family worker or a one-point worker would contact us and say that a family needs support. But from January till the end of October, in excess of 4,500 families have been in touch with us. 96% of those inquiries come from families who have children within a mainstream setting, so either early years, primary school, secondary schools or post-16 college, but we take far fewer referrals from families whose children have moved into alternative or specialist provision. So there's a real link there for us in terms of where we're picking up the referrals, and the type of referrals that families are contacting us about are from families who have children within a mainstream setting. We'll go back for me.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make it bigger because the font's quite small.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I don't think you'll be able to get it bigger.
Probably not.
Another statistic that we've noted again over several years now is that the majority of children that families are contacting us about are children who have social communication difficulties. So that's their main area of need. Yes, some of those children have a diagnosis of autism, but many more of those referrals are children who are on now the new neurodevelopmental pathway. So again, in 2021, 63% of our I've jumped there. 79% of our inquiries are from families who have children with social communication difficulties. All right, okay, thank you. When it comes to trying to track what those inquiries are about and the reasons why families are contacting us, that's the 63%. That's where families are saying to us that they maybe don't have a great knowledge about what support is in place for their child, or they're unsure, or they don't have confidence in that support. There's some level of issue that families are feeling around their child's education. Something's not right. The pieces in the jigsaw, in terms of how their child is being supported, how their needs are being understood, and how a school's responding to those needs being met. that's the main reason that families get in touch with us. There's some element that a parent or a carer is just not confident that their child is being appropriately supported at that point in time in their school. We probably the next reason I would say this year that families have been in touch with us is that 44% of families were contacting the service about making a parental request for assessment. So that's when a parent has the right to be asking the local authority, for us it's Durham County Council, to carry out an assessment of their child's special educational needs. So a significant number of families are saying to us that maybe they're not as confident, or they're not sure that the level of support that their child is currently receiving in school is sufficient, and they're wanting to seek an assessment for an education healthcare plan. And we spend a lot of time talking to families about all of the things that can be put into place for children that lead up to that stage around maybe an education healthcare plan being considered. But certainly this year, that again 44% of 4,500 inquiries is a significant number of families that are feeling that that's maybe where they need to go. And just over 100 families since January we've supported directly around the SEND appeal process. So that's where the local authority have made a decision that a parent doesn't agree with or doesn't think it's an appropriate decision for their child at that point in time, and they've got a right to appeal. And we know that the appeal process is really complicated. It's one that I think a lot of families understandably are very daunted by, that very formal appeal process. So we do a significant amount of support in that time. So Heidi joined us in January. Heidi's role was a newly created role in County Durham, and actually a newly created role across the North East, because it's funded through health. So I was, when you're just in the right place at the right time and you manage to speak to somebody, and I spoke to a lady called Alison Ayres, who's one of the health commissioners for the NHS. I think I probably spoke to Alison about October last year, and Alison was able to secure some funding from within health, from the Learning Disabilities and Mental Health Partnership, I think that was what it was called, to create a post where we could more broadly support families who had children with social communication difficulties and autism, with or without a diagnosis. That was a really key point for me around that, with or without diagnosis. So Heidi came into post in April, and her role is to develop that broader offer around supporting families. The nature of working within Sendais, Heidi, you've picked up a significant amount of direct casework in the same way as myself or Catherine and Angela would do. But Heidi's also made huge strides in developing that wider offer of support for families. So one of the things Heidi's done since April is develop a new autism hub. So that's now based within our building at Lee House in Easington, and we launched that hub, or Heidi launched that hub with families and colleagues end of October, I think. So that's a physical resource information hub that families can now access, which again is something we've talked about for a long time. So it was a real sense of achievement that we got that up and running, and it's been launched. I need to move a little bit closer because I can't. Yeah, Heidi's also been working really closely with colleagues on the new neurodevelopmental pathway. So that's the new assessment pathway for autism and ADHD, and I think there's an update today for you about that. But really working closely with those colleagues in terms of how do we develop that bubble of support for families. So while children are maybe on that assessment pathway or waiting for that assessment, what are we all able to do to support families while that process is happening. We have also had a pilot of some autism social communication workshops for families. So the first set of workshops ran last year virtually, and they're maybe into about their 4th or 5th week at the moment. There's a second set of workshops running at the moment, and that workshop training offer for families is being jointly delivered with adult learning and skills. So that again is something that we've been really keen to develop.
Too far. Amy's getting posh now.
She is. And in terms of that broader support for families through working with colleagues within Children and Young People Services, Heidi's developed what's called Autism Champions. So as families, you may have access to, or need to have access to the Early Help and 1 Point service. So Heidi's, she completed herself some Autism Champion training, and that's now being delivered to staff within the family centres across County Durham. So we have, how many Autism Champions have you got now?
I think it's 12.
12, yeah. So the aim was that there would be an autism champion, somebody who had a greater in-depth of knowledge and skills around autism, to be that point of contact in each family centre for families, but also for other colleagues to be able to draw upon the skills and knowledge of that autism champion when they were working with their families. So again, that's something that we've sort of that is that new offer to families this year. Yes. The one thing that we also wanted to deliver across with as well as having the physical hub, was to have a virtual hub. We need to pick the pace up a little bit about that and we're also relying on colleagues in the local authority, the sort of web admin team. But as part of the Sendais website, we're aiming to have a virtual autism hub, so again to really enhance the information and resources that are on the Sendais website, to have that hub of information, because we're conscious that not everybody's going to be able to travel across to Easington and access the physical hub, so we wanted to make that virtual offer available as well, but that's still a bit of a work in progress. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of the new autism hub. Heidi's got drop-in sessions arranged.
Up until just after Christmas at the minute.
When's the next one, sorry?
So the next one's the 1st of December.
Yeah, there's one on the 1st of December, and then they'll run. Are you doing them monthly?
Yeah, there's something like the first Wednesday of every month. Right.
So the first Wednesday of every month, the hub will be, open, and it's these. This is the main photograph here of the information hub, but the other photographs are of the launch day, when we had various organisations to come along. And what's the little dog's name again?
This is Mella.
Mella, yeah. She actually opened the hub for us. She managed with her porter do the ribbon bit.
Just to remind everybody that whatever slides are in the packs on the tables will be emailed out to everybody.
Yeah.
Just for those who can't see.
Yeah, no, I'll get a copy of the slides for you emailed out. Heidi's also just about to launch a new dads support group. This came from a couple of dads who were at the Autism Hub launch, and they said, well, we know there are lots of support groups out there, but is there one specifically for dads? So this one, just kind of you respond, don't you? And you know that if there's a need for something to happen, then we we aim to get it sorted. So Heidi's been working with lovely colleagues at Live Well North East, and that new group's going to be launched on the 7th of December. Okay. We've also got a daytime support group, so again that's a drop-in session for families to come into the hub for that support group, and also a virtual support group as well. So you'll get, I suppose you'll see those dates when we get the slides sent out to you, and Heidi's contact details are on that slide as well. Okay. Very, very quickly then, we now offer families a dedicated telephone appointment. We started doing that first lockdown because we were, the volume of calls coming into the service, you know, as I've said, is really significant. And we now have that dedicated appointment so families know when we're calling back, and that's really just reduced that failed callbacks, you know, where a family was ringing in, I was ringing them back, they were out, they ring back, say I've missed your call, I'm in a meeting, and you just reduce that call back time. So that's worked really well that they've been offered that dedicated appointment. We've now got a Sendais Facebook page, so please if you can like and share that. It's another way of us letting families know what's happening, you know, and getting that information out to you. Ruth joined us as the Short Break Solutions Officer, and I know that the next bit is about short break, so I'll not say anything more about that, and the work that we've been doing with the Neurodevelopmental pathway. And we've been part of that bubble of support and information on, it's been about 3,000 letters sent out to families about the neuro pathway, and we've certainly felt the knock-on effects of us being part of that signposting for families through those letters. But again, you know, that's what we're there to do. We're there to offer that advice and support. Okay. We've been delivering some workshops with MCT. I delivered 16 between October and November. They were really popular with families. I tend to offer some families if they need an evening appointment, because I appreciate that often families are working and that telephone contact during the day maybe not be convenient for you. So I'm happy to offer an evening appointment. And we have a new Sendais steering group. So one thing I wanted to develop was to get a broader range of individuals together to tell me how we could do our jobs in Sendais better. I think we do a fairly good job, but there's always room for us to develop the service and really respond to what it is that families are saying that you want from us as a service. So the steering group has met twice now, and again there's some parent carer vacancies, so if anybody wanted to come onto that steering group, just catch me today, and you know I'll sort that out for you. Okay, and our contact details are on there as well. I would just emphasise that if families are ringing and you can't get through because that telephone line is so very busy, please leave a voicemail, and we do get back to you. But I know there is some frustration around actually physically getting through, so you know, please use the answer machine or the email or the contact form via our website.
Okay, can everyone hear?
Yes, we
It's
can.
all right, can you hear us?
Yes.
I've got quite a loud, fast voice.
Turn it a bit.
Okay, so I'm Lindsay Dunn and this is Ruth Pope, and we're here to talk about short breaks today. Starting off, can I just ask who has heard of short breaks? Right, who's heard of respite? Yeah, a bit respite. And who's just heard of just a rest? Having a rest.
What's that?
That is, yeah, exactly. So our presentation today is not going to go over the past at all, but COVID's been pretty crap, hasn't it, really? And I don't know about anyone else in the room, but has anyone been hiding from the children? Like, in the toilet, I've like spent most of the time in the bathroom, the toilet, and just the only place I could get a rest. And I've had friends telling us about how brilliant it's been. They've grown organic vegetables. You know, they've had like 5 children and I've only got 1, and they've coped really well and I haven't. And I think the main thing around short breaks for me, and I understand it even more now than I did a year ago, is like we're all completely different. We've all got different tolerances, you know what I mean? We're all in different headspaces. And if you need a break, you need a break. And don't compare yourself to anyone else and think, well, they're managing all right and I'm not, because I've done loads of that over the last 12 months. But I've still hid in the toilet from my dog and my child. And sometimes you just need a rest, and don't even question why you need a rest. So if you need a rest, you just want to lie there and watch crap TV, that's fine. That's what you need to do. You don't have to go and grow these organic vegetables that people think they've been grown. Yeah, so that's where I am with the pandemic. So we're not going to go on about it, but we are going to tell you around our short breaks and what we can do going forward to get you that rest that you need. Okay? So basically, to strip it all the way back to short breaks, it's about us wanting opportunities to exist across County Durham for our children to be able to do things like any child can do to allow us to get that rest when we need it. Okay, so we do want the opportunities. Obviously with COVID, we couldn't have that opportunity, so we know some people have got larger families, different networks, and we just need opportunities for everyone to be able to get that bit of a breathing space when they want it or need it. Yeah. So we'll continue to work with families, and we have done throughout the pandemic, and unless I'm completely in a little darkened room, I think we've done pretty well, hopefully, unless you tell us otherwise, to try and understand exactly how people were feeling and what their needs were through the pandemic. So we did have a short bit off of activities, which were physical activities in venues, and that just took away overnight. So we have tried to work with families to say, well, actually you can't physically get the short break, you can't continue to hide in the toilet, but actually how are you going to get that bit of a breathing space while you're still in the same house? So we've done things like develop virtual offers, try to bring activity packs out to families, try to just help engage with the children to kind of help the situation. And as soon as we possibly could, we started to deliver back in local spaces as quick as we possibly could. But we tried throughout to understand what your needs are, and we'll continue to do that, and we just continue to change, and I think Ruth will echo that. So obviously Ruth's role is to understand exactly what exists across County Durham and what's out there. So we often get told that things aren't, there's loads of provision in one area, not a lot in another area. So we try our best to find out exactly what is there and where the gaps exist. So in terms of barriers, again, they'll be completely different for everyone. And what one person sees as a barrier, another person might not, but we just need to understand what the barriers are to your children taking part in things to allow you that rest I keep talking about, that no one had maybe. So we need to understand the barriers to your child going and taking part in things, and that's what we're really, really passionate about at the minute, is really understanding exactly what those are. Okay, so once we understand what the barriers are, we want to then do whatever we can to enable your child to access where they can. Okay, so could be a local sports session, a youth group, whatever's happening in the local area, we want to understand actually, does your child want to access that? And if they do, why can't they currently? And then what can we do about it? So that's kind of our ultimate aim, that's kind of what we aim to do. So every week your child can go along, take part in hobbies with friends, and you can get a bit of a breathing space. Okay, but we do know that not all children can do that, and we know it isn't possible for everyone, but where it is possible, we are investing as much time as we can to make it happen for you. Okay, so the gaps. For those children who can't, for whatever reason, again, we're all individual and there is different reasons, we want to capture what those reasons are, and then we want to create opportunities for those children to fill those gaps. And that's where we get into the world of commissioned, it's a fancy word, it's in my job title, commissioned services. So basically the local authority will spend some of our money on creating activities for those children who can't take part in things with other children in the community, and that money should only be used for the gaps for those gaps to try and fill them to make sure everyone's got opportunities. And within some of that work, we adapt the sessions that's delivered and we put additional training and support into those sessions. Okay. Right. So, how I want to the main bit I want to get across today is that we've got Ruth Pope, who's absolutely fantastic. And Ruth's been in post for a few months now, and in order to make any of this happen that I'm talking about, Ruth's your first point of contact. And I'll share our contact details shortly. But unless you tell us kind of what's going on out there and what your needs are, we can't shape that offer to help. And I do tell the truth by saying what you tell us we do. And if anyone disagrees, have a word with us, because I really believe that we do. And if we can't, we tell people we can't, and we try and work on a way to do it. So unless we get on the register, we can't communicate out with you. So we've got some information on that today. And another register is the Durham County Carers Register. So if you're on that register, we should be writing out to you through Durham County Carers. So I think the way that we can go out to you, and that's the two mechanisms that we use. And then for you coming to us, it is through the Short Break Solutions Officer. Okay, so that's been a really, really good move, and I think we've took, I'm saying we, I always talk about we. Ruth has took many, many calls, and we're doing some cracking work on the back of that. So just continue to ring Ruth, she's really, really approachable. And yeah, she does listen. The next thing we've got, which is really exciting, is we've got a new post that will shortly be advertised, and that's going to be an inclusive communities like enabling officer. So when you speak to Ruth, you highlight what you want to do, you tell Ruth all the gaps. She's now going to have somebody who she can then pass them over to. And this person, he or she, when they're recruited, their role will be to work with you to say actually what's the barrier and how can we remove that barrier and how can we work together to make it happen. And I don't think, I'm under no illusion that we'll think actually everyone can access things, because we know that that isn't always possible. So we will still have an offer for those who can't. Okay? So the commission bit on the bottom is an offer we will have moving forward, an offer that will support children access mainstream activities, whatever that looks like. We won't just say, right, there you go, little Harry, crack on, enjoy your football session. We won't just do that. We'll have an offer that will really work with the young person to really get them to where they need to be to do something in the future. But we need to understand from you what that needs to look like. But we do know that we can't just go from A to B. We need something in the middle. We need support, that access. So there will be an offer to do that, but we don't know what that looks like yet, because you're going to come up with it. The second thing we'll have is for those who can't access for whatever reason, we will have an offer where we'll deliver a range of activities like physical activity sessions, youth groups and all the rest of it, where we will have staff who will have enhanced training to be able to deliver those special disability sessions. And then the last one, which I haven't really gone massively into, is our specialist offer for those families who are assessed as having a social care need, is really needing no short breaks. So I know I joked on earlier about needing a rest and all the rest of it, but the first bit of the offer is where you don't need an assessment, you can just say, I need a rest for whatever reason, and you can access things. The high end of the offer is where a social worker will actually carry out a statutory assessment and say, actually you need more enhanced support within your family, and that's called our special short break offer. And I'm not really going massive into that today, but there is a huge increase in demand on the specialist end of things currently, and yeah, it's a little bit challenging up that end at the moment. But Durham County Carer support, again through Short Break Solutions, if you're coming in through those routes and those people feel actually you're coming in for a non-assessed offer, but we think there's more going on in your family and you could do with some additional support, someone might recommend and say, have you thought about referring in for an assessment to see if you can actually get even more support. So we never want to discourage from that if it's needed. People will always actually encourage you to go through that process if they think you need more support than what's on offer, and that would be for a social worker to kind of come up with. And the final slide, what's our contact details? Have you put them on?
No, they're there. It's just a...
Oh, I was like, you can contact Ruth and there's no number there. So that's a crucial number. Rather than share loads of information, I just want to share that one number and the email address. And Ruth just, I know our kid's in, but she's fantastic and she captures everything what comes in, and there's always something what comes out the other end. Oh, that doesn't sound right, does it? Right, okay, but we're here all day, so I thought if any questions.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, a quick apology from my colleague. Shawa was going to come along today and talk to you guys about Durham Works. Unfortunately, she's not very well at the moment, so she won't be here. So you've got me talking all about Durham and Abel.
The information's in the packs for Durham Works, if anybody needs it.
That's good for me because I get to talk all about Durham and Abel. Now, how many of you guys have heard of Durham and Abel before? I suspect probably not too many. We're a new council service, we're a supported employment service, and I'll go into exactly what that means a little bit. And we're a service for anyone aged over 18 all the way up to retirement age. And you might ask, well, why am I here then talking about a service for adults? And I'm going to use an anecdote from one of our customers that I was talking to just last week, as it was, and he was saying that when he was 5, he was told by the NHS that he would never travel independently, he would never work, and he would always live at home. 2 years ago, this young man took a mortgage on. He travelled to Japan when he was 17 as the responsible adult, and he's got a full-time job paying for his mortgage. And that's why I'm here, because as a council we've got a responsibility to make sure that there is a link between being a child and being an adult with employment, and that is for everyone, irrespective of what disability you've got. So that's why I'm here today. So, what is support employment? Well, County Durham, it's got a historically low employment rate for adults.
Just going to turn this and then...
with learning disabilities and autism. So, over the last 10 years, there's been a lack of service and support for people with disabilities moving into employment in County Durham and across the country for support employment related to political changes. Now, we identified that need, and essentially we put a support employment service in place to address that, and we're taking a strategic responsibility as a council to make sure it's on our agenda, to make sure there are opportunities for everyone, irrespective of what kind of disability across the range. Now, what is support employment? Essentially, the guts of what we do, and I feel like a fraud standing here because my job is Durham and Abel manager, but the real guts of the work is done by our job coaches. They're out there every day working with people with disabilities, progressing them into paid employment. And essentially, support employment provides an intensive one-to-one support. It provides that level of need to be able to work with young people and identify what the barriers are, work out what they want from employment, work out if they're ready to go to employment, and whether that's been through COVID, working with people whose autism has been complicated by anxieties around contamination or going outside, and initial meetings have been going for a walk with someone to get them out of the house and to discuss how realistic it is to move them onto employment. So that essentially that's the crux of it. It's intensive one-to-one support and providing that level of support that hasn't been there previously. The job centre, etc. They're on timed appointments. You have to come in, you have to go out. Our job coaches work on a very structured basis, which is a national model from the British Association of Supported Employment. And essentially what you see on screen there is the model that we work through. We have an initial engagement session, and that is where we work with people of all ages, and that's critical that I say that people of all ages, because disability is something that is often inherited, but it can also be something that is developed, and as you get older, the increase and rate of disability increases. So what is unique about our service is that it isn't capped at 25, and there isn't a requirement to have an EHCP. So we work with people all the way up to retirement age, and that's a fundamental gap that was there before we came along. We work with the individuals to be able to understand what is realistic for them, what they want out of employment, and it isn't just a case of getting someone into employment, it's an understanding that everyone, irrespective of who you are, has a right to progression, support, development, and that is a key part of what we do as part of the in-work support. We engage with employers, and we're starting to develop a network of inclusive recruitment employers across County Durham. We're still in the early stages. The service has been up and running since about February this year, and I'm skipping the order here, but we've already had 21 of our young people and older people moving through, up to 50 have moved into paid employment already. And we've done that across a range of employers and a range of different sizes, and what we're finding is that a key part of the process, if I go back to where I was, is working with the employers to understand what the particular individual barriers are to the individual, their fears and apprehensions, and a big one is always reasonable adjustments. You mentioned the phrase reasonable adjustments, and it's like saying the word impact assessment. People have fear because they don't understand it, whereas in reality most reasonable adjustments can be implemented at manager level, and they are very simple measures that can be implemented. For example, if a person with autism is unable to get on a bus during peak working hours, we would work with the employer to make them understand that, and we'll look at ways that we can maybe put flexible working practices in place. It could be that, from anything through to making sure we get the interview questions for interviews beforehand, or if one of our job coaches would go along to the interview with them to be able to provide support. So the essence of it is that it's tailored to the individual, and it's that intensive one-to-one level of support. Now, the target group is essentially anyone over 18, not in full-time education or employment, and we don't have a specific category of disability that we require. It is everything across the board, although we do have targets because we're ESF funded currently until 2023, although we intend to be around for a long time after that. So, as I was saying before, we've had 140 referrals up to date, mostly from March, with 69 people currently on our caseloads, and of those 21 have progressed into paid employment. And some of these people have never worked before. They could be in their mid-30s and they'd never even had a job interview before, so we're seeing real success with people. And I've got a video case study to show you at the end of this of the impact that it's having on the young people. In terms of where we're getting our referrals from, they're essentially coming from three streams, which is adult care, the Job Centre Plus, and our partner programmes within the council, Durham Works, etc. You'll notice that doesn't add up to 100 because there are different individual referral mechanisms that we look at for individual cases. We're currently not taking self-referral for the programme because we're still getting set up and established. We're growing quite rapidly, and we're planning to bring in more job coaches as the new year starts to be able to meet the demand. So I'd like to introduce you to Paul, who is one of our customers. Now, Paul was referred from an organisation called Bridge Creative, if you're familiar with, and Paul has autism. He's 26 and he's never had paid employment or volunteering work in the past. He suffered quite badly during lockdown, as a lot of us did, with isolation, and that compounded his his fear about getting out into the employment market. Now, Paul is an individual. He's very intelligent and he has a very good idea of what he wants to do in the field he wants to work in, and that's the theatre industry. Now, Paul worked very closely with one of our job coaches to essentially build his confidence, and this comes back to what I was talking about earlier. It could be, we could start off by doing things as simple as going out for a walk, getting fresh air, understanding what Paul's ambitions are, his anticipations, what realistically he wants from work, and how we can move that forward working with employers. A big question that we often get, and this is one that is often brought up by parents as well, is the question of benefits, and are we going to be better off moving into employment? Are we going to lose benefits? And that's a real concern for the individual, for the families, for everyone. And the welfare benefit system is complex. It's very complex, better off calculations, PIPs. And one of the things our job coaches do is they work with individuals to make sure that the better off calculations are done, and whatever the route the individual wants to take into employment is going to benefit them and not put them or their families in any worse situation than they otherwise would have been. So Paul, through the work, we managed to get him a place at the Gala Theatre, which he's absolutely loving the idea of, and is about to start his role very soon. The role is a hospitality assistant, and he's initially been employed on a 0 hours contract, but that suited Paul. I know we hear the word 0 hours contract and we think that that's taking advantage of people, but because of Paul's particular condition and lack of confidence, he wanted something that he could move into that transition into employment slowly. So it's a case of working out what's best for the employer and the individual that we're working with. The interventions that we put in place were job profiling, travel training is a big one, giving people the confidence that they can get out there, they can get on public transport, but working out routes, going on the transport with them, giving them the confidence to do that, and where necessary getting access to work arrangements so that where public transport isn't an option, there can be finance there to make sure they can get taxis, etc. to work. Social interaction skills, and one thing we did with Paul, the job coach did with Paul, was that they got him an opportunity in a retail catering environment where he could get a bit of exposure to the employment and the workplace, and just build that confidence that he could take the next step, because Paul was very focused on, I want to move into employment, and this is the area I want to move into. And it's essentially one of the other things that we find we're helping quite a lot with is building CVs, completing application forms. I mean, we've all completed application forms. Everyone here has been to a job interview at some point, I presume, and it can be daunting, it can be intimidating for anyone going into a room, sitting in front of a panel and essentially having to sell yourself. Now, if you can imagine how that feels if you're in your 40s and you've never been to a job interview, you've never worked, and you add on top of that you could have a mental health condition that gives you anxiety on top of that, just how difficult and daunting that could be. So we do a lot of work around interview prep, mock interviews, etc., to give them that confidence and support. And as I said earlier, if necessary, we will sometimes liaise with employers to make sure that we can actually have the job coaches present at the interview. Now, I would talk about Paul more, but I wouldn't do him justice. So what I'm going to do, if this works, and I hope you can hear it.
What has changed in your life since you started working with Durham and Abel?
Well, I feel like if it wasn't for Durham and Abel, I wouldn't have been able to get this job that I've been pursuing so easily. If it was a normal person, it would be simple, but I've had in my mind for a very long time where I really wanted to do and to work in the theatre, and I'm finally getting to do that.
Did you think it was possible to gain a paid job before working with Durham and Abel?
If I was a normal person, then yes, it would be possible, but when you're autistic, it's hard to deal with stuff like this, but I've been given the support I need to get me where I am today.
What have you liked about having a job coach?
My job coach, she's very enthusiastic, she's understandable, and she knows the type of stuff that I'm into and where I want to pursue, and she seems so determined to get me there.
Would you recommend Durham Enable to others, and why?
Yes, definitely, because if I can do it, then others can. I mean, I'm autistic, and look at me now, just about as successful as I can be, and I would strongly recommend it to other people, because I know a few people who struggle more than me and want to pursue stuff. They can definitely do that. They shouldn't give up, if I haven't.
What are you looking forward to most about starting work?
Showing the experience that I've got with when it comes to like seeing theatres and cinemas, and also when I mentioned catering and that, because I'm doing voluntary work at a cafe, and possibly trying out new stuff. I mean, I got told that cleaning up the confetti things is a pain apparently, but we'll just have to see.
What will you spend your first paycheck on?
We'll treat my girlfriend for a meal, maybe, and if I have enough money, I'll maybe get my own film studio.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about Durham Enable?
I think the future is looking bright for me.
Now, as I say, there's no way I could do that justice to seeing Paul talk about it himself, and Paul is an absolute inspiration. The one final thing I will say, and we fundamentally believe a purpose of Durham Enable, and in addition to delivering this support to get people into employment, is that as a council service, to make sure on the strategic agenda that employment for people with disabilities is there, and an awareness raising function. I've been meeting with a lot of our special school head teachers lately, and a key part of that is understanding the challenges that young people have, and how as a service we can look at those barriers as people move into the age where they're looking to get into employment. So we're not just a frontline service, we're an awareness raising service as well, and we hope we can do good work, and hopefully you guys will see the benefit of it. Thank you for your time.
Right, hello. This is a bit weird. This is the first time I've been out with work in 18 months. I'm speaking to a whole group of actual people, and I had to wear work clothes, so I'm just hoping that this is going to be okay. I am the designated clinical officer for Send. Does anybody know what that actually means? Put your hand up if you know what that means. You don't count. You don't count, you don't count.
My hand up, and I probably don't count.
Okay, so you don't count either? No? Okay, so nobody. Right, okay, it's true. I think it's basically a really rubbish title. If at the end of this, I'm going to ask you the same, do you understand what I try to do at the end of this? If I still have no hands, then it's a really rubbish presentation and I've got to go back to the books, okay? So let's hope. Essentially, I am the clinical lead, I don't know what but I'm the clinical lead for children and young people with SEND across County Durham, okay? And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. Right, so essentially, I am making sure that all of the NHS services that support children, young people and young adults in 0 to 25 across County Durham, yeah, so all NHS services providing services to children and young people in County Durham are doing what they should be doing regarding the SEND code of practice. Does that make any more sense? Yes. Okay, so, and I know that I'm being videoed, but and I work with a lot of lovely people in health. And where's Jill? Jill, put your hand up. She's a lovely SEND, hello. We've got lovely SEND champions. You know, and it is a bit like, I guess my job is a bit like putting an octopus in a string bag. because there's a lot of different trusts that go in lots of different places, and they don't necessarily want to go in the hole that I want them to go in. Anyway, so, but you're very good. Actually, I have to say Jill is extremely good. So I just wanted to, this is basically a little bit of my job. So I'm here, and these are all the different trusts I have to work with. So all of these guys all work and provide services to children and young people in County Durham. So we've got CAMS, we've got CHUV, one trust. We've got 3 different paediatric trusts giving support. So we've got County Durham, North Tees and Hartlepool and South Tyneside and Sunderland, and they're all based on where your GP is located. We've got continuing care, looked after children's services, primary care, we've got physio, loads and loads. So basically, so these are all of the tentacles to go into the string bag. And yeah, sorry about the typo. And I guess my job in the CCG is trying to bring together people from as many different places as possible, get the right information, and I guess have some influence as well over commissioning in County Durham. And that is a big thing in the SEND Code of Practice. We are legally obliged to bring in elements of SEND when considering about commissioning, okay? So, and I'll be honest, I did struggle a little bit when I was thinking, so what have I achieved actually? I've been working in this job for 2.5 years, and I actually had to go back to colleagues and say, what have I done? And I think it's because I really wanted to come here, a bit like other people, and say, da-da, you know, I've been in here and I've done this and this and I've done this. But actually what I have done is actually really important, I think. And it's the most important thing. I try my hardest to strengthen connections between the health estate, commissioners making changes together, the Investing in Children group and the local authority and education, and it's about kind of building those relationships up in a really respectful way, and that's really important. And actually, what I try to do is raise and resolve issues quickly. So it could well be that parents get in contact, Lisa from Sendais or anybody can get in contact and say, right, this is a problem, Laura, where do we go? And I hope to be able to direct people. And also, you know, part of this relationship building is kind of, again, making those links. So, you know, just by being able to develop relationships with MCT, you co-produced a parental letter for the CAMS, it's the Neurodevelopmental pathway, I believe, that went out, because I saw the letter, and I just thought that's amazing. That was so far away from where we were like 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I think. You know, the fact that you know, you're around the table. And I guess there's something about identifying opportunities, escalating gaps in services, and we're aware there are a lot of gaps in services, yeah. And I put in developing the personal health budget offer, because I thought, well, that is something that I've tried to support. Feedback is really, really important to me. And open and honest feedback, and I'm always up for being challenged and for challenging other people, and I think that that's really important, and taking it in good grace. So I do, or I chair some fortnightly audits around quality in education healthcare plans, and now we've been fortunate to get somebody in that can interview parents as well about their experiences, and that for me is amazing. And you know, I think if I just had one word to describe that feedback from parents, it's we want more communication, and that would be one word massively across the screen. It's all about better communication across the whole of the process. So you know, we've taken that to the SEND partnership, and I know that you know, there's a key person, Lisa Skelton, in the local authority who's working with MCT to think about how we can get those opportunities for feedback along that process. And actually, what I didn't realise is that, who's gone through the EHCP process? Put your hand up. So quite a few. I didn't realise that people don't get copies of the health advice that's been written about the child. No. So that's something that we're going to start doing. And I guess it's that thing, isn't it? Until you start asking and really probing and getting into the nitty-gritty, you don't know the little things that you can do to improve. You know, and it's always small steps in the right direction. Right, how much time have I got? 6 minutes. Okay, right, okay. So the other thing, and this is the key bit of my job really, is to improve the quality of the health advice coming in for education healthcare assessments. And so a key thing I've been is strengthening knowledge and understanding of SEND across all of the health teams. And we now have SEND champions in all of our teams, including Jill. And actually in CAMS we're developing EHCP buddies for each team. So what we want is to develop that internal expertise, and that raises SEND awareness. It kind of, you know, increases internal expertise, so then people can really, you know, start to develop that quality. And that is really important, because we want, you know, the EHCP is an amazing opportunity to get all of that really good quality information that's all out there into a document that could be really useful. I just think there's so much more potential in that. I do monthly SEND EHCP training to health practitioners, so that's like an ongoing rolling programme. And actually, I can say that actually the health advice is improving. It's not amazing, it is improving, and it is going in the right direction. And that's, for me, the most important thing, you know, knowing that, and actually we have got, you know, there is much more SEND awareness, I think, in the health teams. Do you think, Jill? I'm putting you on the spot here.
I think so, yeah. I just wouldn't want to make it all about the assessments, though, because there's a lot of other health that builds into it, and we just do a very small part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a whole holistic, yeah. Okay, so, but also, I don't think it would be fair for us not to talk about all the challenges in health at the moment, and there are huge numbers of challenges. We've got a huge increase in assessment waiting lists across the health services, and it's, you know, I think when I started, OT didn't have anybody on the waiting list, and now it's quite significant. And you know, that's generally come from an increase in referrals anyway. The impact of COVID, staff retention, believe it or not, and I know that in some services that's a real issue, because people graduate in Newcastle and then they get their first amazing job in County Durham. And then what happens is they go and get a job back to where they graduated and where they've got a home. And so we're actually losing quite a lot to Newcastle. And also staff recruitment, you know, there's a real issue, and I know that there are lots and lots of open posts in lots of different services, and commissioners are working with services to think creatively about how we can solve or go towards solving that problem. And also there is a significant nationwide increase in placement breakdowns for young people, and that might be from their home into a care, or the breakdown in the care placement, and that is really quite significant as well. And so what happens is health, you know, in the commissioning team also we have to divert resources accordingly. So anyway, there's a little bit. And I was just going, this is where I was thinking, right, well, we need to think about what we have done. So this isn't me that's done this, but you know, there are CCG, I guess, are thinking about funding, and they are thinking about investments as commissioners, and you know, that Heidi's post was, you know, my colleague Alison Ayres kind of supported them with that post. So yeah, there's other things we're doing. I really wanted to talk about my autism stuff as well. How long have I got?
3 minutes.
Right, can I quickly get, this is my real passion as well. Right, words to describe autism. I'll be super quick. I came here when I first started my first conference presentation. I asked people, what terms do you prefer when talking about autism? And I said it to the MCT conference, ASD, ASC, autism, or on the autistic spectrum, or autistic, and then on the autistic spectrum. You guys said much prefer autistic, we really don't like ASD. So I took that on. And that also fits in with everything else that's out there, including research, Nice Guidance, Autistica, and the National Autistic Society. And actually, when I came into post, ASD was still spoken about predominantly, and people did not like that term. So I co-produced with the Extreme Group, which is Investing in Children, a very quick survey, okay? I'm happy to answer questions as well. I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going through this really quickly. Okay, so we put in a really quick survey monkey. What did we ask? What do you think about the following terms, from like to do not to, 1, do not like, to 5, like very much? Which term do you prefer most, and are there any other terms you use to describe autism? Who took part? Okay, so this was done with the Extreme Group, and we sent out the survey to parent carer groups nationally and locally, and local groups, and basically parent carer groups and autism groups, online, social media. And there were 573 people that took part, of which 94 had County Durham connections. Okay, there weren't that many autistic young people that were taking part, and a vast majority of parents and carers. So, results. What do you think people like the most? Come on, this is a bit of participation. Autistic. Anything else? ASC. Anybody else? You're right. It was autistic. But everybody preferred autistic, you know, and we had a vast amount of carers. Everybody preferred autistic, but the autistic respondents preferred it way more, like significantly, hugely more than just people. So the closer you are, I guess, to being autistic, i.e. you're autistic, the more you prefer that term. Okay, what do you think people disliked the most? ASD.
Has autism.
Has autism. Has autism. Yeah. Actually, what I'll come to that debate, but I just stuck with autistic as my. Okay, so dislike the most, ASD. Okay, and very similar. Everybody really didn't like ASD, but autistic people really disliked it more than anything else. And I've got a fancy graph I'll show you in a minute. Preferred term overall? Yeah, it's not, yeah, basically, yeah. Similar, autistic people really preferred the term. So this is a fancy graph my father-in-law did for me, because I'm rubbish at these kinds of things. And I just like it because it shows that this is the neutral bit. So these are the non-autistic respondents. Okay, they're very much in the middle. It's like, well, yeah, you know, we're a bit... We're not putting our colours to the mast so much here. Whereas this, the autistic group, this is huge. This is a huge spread. And what this is telling me is actually we need to really listen to people. We need to listen to those people who are affected by the diagnostic terms that are used to describe them. Anyway, so lots of positive groups from lots of people. Just saying, yeah, thank you for actually asking autistic people what their preferred language is. And I love this. This is from the Investing in Children group, and I love this quote very much. And this says, autism isn't an alternative word, it is the right word. I wasn't going into the debate at that point about is autistic or has autism, but in my free comments, that came up quite a lot. And essentially, people prefer is autistic. I am autistic, but I am not disordered. Go for it.
I'm autistic, and my 2 children are autistic, and I hate autism, the word, because it labels me as I'm disabled, and autistic is actually just like, oh, well, I can't do that either. So I like neurodifferent. So when I go into school and with the EHCP, we're neurodifferent because we just think differently. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but just we do it differently. Absolutely.
And that is why people really objected to the term disorder. And that came up in absolutely loads and loads. I've been, right, okay, I'm done. Next steps.
They give you both and
yeah, you can. So thank you very much. And yes, the psychiatrist really embraced it. Thank you. Team training, we will put the video on we'll put it on YouTube so that people can see it. Team training is a group of different organisations. Myself, Victoria from Making Changes Together.
And I'm Louise Brown from Rollercoaster. Louise from Rollercoaster.
Also, CAMS is part of our team training, and Durham County Carers, and Joanne, bless her, couldn't make it today, so she made this lovely video explaining how we all came together.
Hello everybody, my name's Joanne Lancastle from Durham County Carers Support, and I just wanted to let you know a little bit about how team training came into being. Back at the beginning of the year, we conducted a poll of the parent carers who were registered with us and asked them to let us know if there were any topics or subjects that they would like some training on. When we got the results back, there were an awful lot of parents asking for information and sessions around anxiety and supporting their children who were experiencing anxiety. So I had a bit of a think and decided that Wendy at Rollercoaster may be a good person to contact to ask if she knew of anybody who could help us actually facilitate those sessions. Funnily enough, at the same time, Wendy had been considering Rollercoaster's own training offer and how to move that forward and what to put in place. So we decided it would be a good idea to get together and to try and work together to provide some training for parents. Wendy obviously had contact with CAMS and she invited CAMS along, and Making Changes Together also joined us. And what we really want to do as a group is to offer training for parent carers that's coordinated so that we're not duplicating the sort of sessions that are provided, and just to bring it all together and to make sure that we offer you high quality training on subjects that are helpful for you and that you will benefit from. Most of the training has been online of late. We all know why, but hopefully as we move into 2022 we'll be able to look at providing some face-to-face training too. So I'm going to hand over to Louise and Victoria, who are there with you in person, and they're going to just tell you a little bit about what we've done so far and our plans for the future. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for listening.
So far we've done several sessions: supporting anxious children, emotional well-being, positive behaviour support, supporting siblings of children with additional needs, sibling rivalry, SEND law and the code of practice, quality first teaching, statutory assessments, EHC plans, SEND appeal and tribunal, and access to the creative education online resources.
And then we've got a slide next, if you can click next, Amy, and it's basically just says evaluations from some of the training that's happened. I'm not going to read them all, but I'll pick out a few. We've said the presentation was excellent, but also extremely useful to hear other parents' experiences. I liked it online. I got very anxious before real life sessions. I was able to participate a lot more this way. Useful tips, and just listening to advice and guidance, and to know our children aren't alone and each child is different. And we do have another lot of evaluations that will be coming through from the recent workshops that Lisa has delivered for us around the list that Louise has just mentioned.
So we've got some sessions coming up as well. The rolling programme of supporting anxious children and emotional wellbeing sessions will continue next year, and continued access to the creative education online resources. And this week you should have received an email or maybe a flyer, Making Sense of Caring online session, which starts in December. And in the new year, really important, a sleep workshop coming up in the early new year.
Next slide, please. So what you'll notice is this is our format. Any training we put on
it will be on one of these leaflets so that you know it's coming from all of us together. And what we've also done is on the Making Changes Together website, we've actually built a tab in where any training that any of the organisations are offering, we're posting on there so that you can go there and find out what's actually happening, and we share on social media all the time. It is, and then the last thing, sorry, is if you have any training that you think we're missing, that we need, in your packs is a nice flyer. Please write down what training you want, leave them on the table, and we will collect them, because we have a meeting next week, so we can actually discuss the training that you want. So please take the time over lunch, fill it in, and let us know what sort of training you're looking for. Lisa very nicely has committed that she will continue delivering the workshops she's recently delivered, although not all in 1 week. Yes, and there's a new one she wants to develop around transitions, which I'm really excited about, because my child is moving from year 6 to year 7 and I'm in pieces about it at the moment. But yeah, so it's really, really encouraging. As part of Change Together, we go to a lot of local authority and meetings, and we're able to feed back what's happening, and a lot of them are getting involved and saying, we want to be part of this, we want to help you with this training. So please take the time and tell us what you're looking for. And anybody got any questions? Excellent. Oh, sorry. What we do is we'll take it back on Monday. We've got our meeting. We'll take it back there, and we'll speak to the ladies there, and we'll take it back and say that you've put it on that form as well. You want the positive behaviour, but yes, this one. And I think what we're doing is the ones that have been really, really popular, we know they're the ones that we need to keep offering throughout the year. And as Lisa said, what she plans to do on hers is to offer them at strategic points of the year, and she said she's committed to carry on delivering those. So thank you very much.
Can I ask, how much notice do you get? Because I work, like, how much notice do we get? Do we get like a plan for in advance, like for a couple of months, that we need to do work days or weekly basis?
When we post them, we normally give 2 or 3 months of dates that are available on those workshops. So for example, the ones that Making Changes have just done with Sendais, we allowed you to sign up either in October or in November. So we were giving you plenty of notice, and we've also run ours on an evening as well as during the day to try and cater. But yes, we will take that back, and maybe that's something we need to be looking at come January. Maybe we can publish a termly plan of what we're going to deliver.
Because my work diary books away in advance, but if I know I can write this.
Yes, brilliant.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you on Facebook?
Yes, we Make Change Together is on Facebook, is on Twitter, is on. All our training goes on is shared on Facebook, and we have a tab on our website where it's all collated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm just going to do a very quick introduction while Jill gets organised. So my name is Rachel Allen, this is Jill Rayburn, my boss, so I'm on best behaviour today. Jill is the service manager and I'm the team manager for the Neurodevelopmental Assessment Service, and we are part of the much wider new neurodevelopmental pathway, which I've been living and breathing for the last 12, 13 months. So we're just going to give you a kind of relatively brief presentation around our part of it and a bit of the rationale as to why we moved from what we were to what we are now. And we are kind of still in the midst of that transformation as well. Okay, so what do we mean by neurodevelopmental? So it's something that is lifelong. Difficulties include cognition, language, motor development, attention, emotional regulation, social communication, and that's just, you know, to name a few. Obviously everybody is different, and so you would expect to see different different traits in different people. There is evidence that neurodevelopmental conditions do co-occur. Autism and ADHD are the most common, but aren't the only conditions out there, and it's not uncommon that somebody would have one or two, if not more. So why needs-led? So parents highlighted the importance of needs being met regardless of diagnosis, which I know is a really key point that we're all picking up at the moment, kind of across health and the local authority. There's confusion over what services are available without a diagnosis, and the importance of a culture change across the system away from diagnosis. So this slide is based around the Darlington bubble of support, because we are the Durham and Darlington Neurodevelopmental Assessment Service or pathway. But as a similar model, we have a needs-led offer or bubble of support. So it's information brought together for the local area, additional funding available to try and minimise the gaps identified. So we have on here about contacting Darlington, but we have the expansion of the Autism Hub in Sendais in Durham, and I think that's just the start really of the changes. And it's about needs-led is about putting the emphasis on support and advice being available regardless of diagnosis. So not looking at, does my child have a diagnosis? It's about where can I get some support in the meantime while I'm waiting for that assessment to take place, because that is a much wider issue, I think, for families in Durham and Darlington. So the Neurodevelopmental Assessment Team, it's a service within TSESC and Weir Valley. So the assessment team, that's mine, and we sit within the NHS. It brings together two previous pathways. So we used to have what we call an ADT pathway, which was for the assessment of ADHD, and an autism pathway. And so when I first started, that was very much the case, and we only just begun the transition at that point. And what we were finding is that children and young people were waiting for an assessment, sometimes for both at the same time, but we didn't know, we weren't really speaking to each other as teams. Or they will have an autism assessment, and regardless of diagnosis, they might say, actually, I think there was some attention difficulties here. So then they would be put on another waiting list to have another assessment for ADHD. And it was very, very time consuming. It's duplicating a lot of the work that we were doing. So we decided to merge the two into one pathway, which obviously is this. And the CCG invested funding so that we could expand the team. So when I arrived here, there were 29 staff members within the team, and now there are about 57, 58. So we have significantly increased the capacity within the team in order to try and provide a more comprehensive assessment and to see more children and young people. So I'm going to hand you over to Jill now.
Okay, thanks everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. I just wanted to say first, thanks for inviting us along here, because I know we're kind of the assessment part of the pathway, but it is a far bigger offer across County Durham. So it's really lovely to come and hear about the support that's available, because we do spend a lot of time in our team trying to signpost people to say, we actually do the assessments, but we're just part of that wider system that's across County Durham. So it's been really helpful, I think, for me, Rachel, just to understand more about that. And part of the work I'm doing, although I'm here representing TSESC and Weir Valleys, I'm part of that overarching group that are looking across the county and bringing everyone together, which Laura will be lovely to hear for Laura, because she's all about us working together. How we get all this information in one place as well, because I guess we're kind of conscious as professionals, we sometimes struggle to know who to signpost people to while you're waiting for an autism assessment, because we can't lie, there is a long waiting list. We wish there wasn't, but there is at the moment. So how do people get support before, during and after their autism or the ADHD assessments is something we're really working with our partners with. I know some people are here today. It was just to let you know that we are doing that piece of work, because we do realise sometimes you ring the autism team or for an ADHD assessment, and really what you want is the support. It's not about that piece of paper that has whether my child does or not have whatever it is. It's about how I get the support. So I just wanted to say, although we're here from TUV, we are conscious that we're part of that big wider pathway. So I guess what everyone wants to know is, what does that mean for them? So all these changes, and we keep talking about a new pathway, what does that mean for me as a family and the young person in my family? So one of the biggest changes people will notice is that we have a referral form now. So previously, families, I don't know if people in here have done it, have rung our, what we call the SPA, which isn't as lovely as it sounds. It's our single point of access. And that would direct people to a community CAMHS mental health team, and families would sit there for quite a while, because they are incredibly busy, to have that discussion and some work done with the family to understand their needs and decide at that point if that specialist, we call it a specialist assessment, but it's an assessment for either autism or ADHD. What we do now is the referral form that we ask everyone to fill in with their views, with the young people's views, to put those views forward, and a professional who knows that child well. And that form goes to what we call a multi-agency panel, where they can have that discussion, normally within 2 or 3 weeks of that form being received, so we can then let the family know if we think that further assessment is the right thing to do, and maybe have a think about the support that they're already getting, and if there's anything we can think of in what we know, and some of the things we've talked about and heard about today that might be helpful alongside waiting for that assessment. I guess we spent a lot of time saying, please don't wait for the assessment. If you go into school and they say, have an assessment and then come back when we know what your needs are, actually you know what the needs of your child are. So how do we get that support into schools? And I know there is a training, one of the training modules, and I'm not sure exactly what it was described as, around that, how do we know what our rights are? So if anyone is struggling, I'd kind of signpost them to that now, which will be really helpful. So what does that pathway look like? We talk about the pathway. It's on your slides, it's quite small. We do have it on the board on one of the tables that we've got outside. It describes all the way down the start to finish. It looks really complicated. I guess the bottom half is what we would do in our assessment. The top half is what happens before that referral form.
We can do from here down.
So that bottom part is what we would do in Tees, Esk and Wear Valleys, but down the side and at the top is that support that should wrap around that family and anything that they need. Needs-led is what you might hear quite a lot from any of the staff who come into contact with you. That needs-led is, so what as a family do we need and where can we get it? Not waiting for an assessment. What is out there? I think there was a survey done over the summer, and what we found out from that is there is support out there, but not everyone knows about it. So another piece of work we do, which links into how we have something available to let people know, is how do we get that out there? And then we know where the gaps are based on people knowing what's already there. I think that's another piece of work that we are doing with the CCG. Sorry, I'm not reading the slides behind me. I should. So Rachel's helpfully put up there's 2 website addresses, one for County Durham and one for Darlington, which brings together the referral form, some of the help that's available, and I guess what I've been thinking as well, sat this morning, is how do we get links from that onto the things we've heard about today. So that's one of the things I'm taking back from today, is to talk to the CCG and see if we can get some of those links onto that website. I know Heidi's doing a piece of work to pull things together. How do we get a link to Sendais on there? So that's the next things that we need to do. But the referral form is on there. it is quite far down, because what we're hoping is that people try and get some support and access the support rather than thinking they have to access the referral for assessment first, because that's not what you need to get the support that's available. So we're hoping that although it is there, the support around it is going to really help people on that during that wait. Any more slides? So this is just really a basic slide of hopefully what families and carers will see over the time period. It is a massive change. Like I said, we have lots of people waiting for an assessment already. If anyone's in that position, you might have had a phone call recently from one of the team, from the neuro team, because we can't say neurodevelopmental all the time, just asking for some more advice, a little bit of information to get things up to date. Some people have been waiting over a year, so the information that we have might not be up to date now. So you might get a phone call and they might ask you to fill the referral form in. The other message we're trying to get out is that doesn't mean it's a new referral. You're not going to the bottom of the waiting list. It's just so we can gather some more up-to-date information to help us when we think about what is the right thing to do for us as a trust to support you as your family. So that's one of the things. It went live in October, so we've only been around officially for a few weeks now. Sorry, it's back on my screen, I can see it again now. So we've got the website there, we've got the referral form. It does look like a really long form, but it is split into sections, like I said, so the part that as a family we would ask you to fill in isn't the whole form, and there's other people around to support you to do that if you need it. We are thinking as well on how we communicate better. I know, was it Laura that mentioned about communication in big wide letters right across the screen? Every piece of work I've ever been involved in when we've done lessons learned, communication's at the top of the list. So we have got links with Making Changes, with Roller Coaster, United Voice, and there's a parent carer forum in Darlington as well. Don't have as many links with Durham carers, which I would like to make, so if anyone's here from Durham carers, I would love to talk to them today, and anyone else really. Oh, I can see you in the corner. We have got a stand as well. I was going to take some questions if anyone had questions, but I think everyone probably wants lunch. Don't know if lunch is ready, is it?
25, so you've got another 10 minutes to do really well.
I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any. If anyone wants to come and see myself or Rachel lunch or any of the other breaks, please come.
Can I just ask a question?
Of course you can.
Hi, I'm a mum of 5, and 3 of the children that I have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder.
Right.
I just was wondering whether that's going to fit under the neurodevelopmental pathway.
It doesn't at the moment. It goes, I think, through paediatrics, my understanding. So it's how we link together with them, because there are links. I mean, like Rachel's saying, autism and ADHD are the most common, but there are others, and how do we work together, because there are links across them. So that's something that we need to get better at, I think.
I think so, because I think unfortunately paediatrics are very limited in what they can offer in terms of that diagnosis.
Yeah.
Which has meant that with the joint working with the paediatrician, we've had to have a private assessment for those 3 children.
Right. Right.
And actually, with the nice guidelines coming out of FASD, it would be really helpful if a service such as yourself, which has got specialism in neurodevelopmental, would be able to look at picking up that pathway for children.
Yeah. And I think that's a commissioner's question, if I'm being with my corporate head on, but with my standing here as a person, it's how do we work better together, and if there's a different way to manage that, then we need to talk to commissioners.
I think that
I'm just literally looking across the room at Laura and flagging. So
yes, Laura. Yeah.
Right, you know, I'm aware of
the huge joy of being in this room is we can bring these professionals together who wouldn't necessarily meet each other or have met each other on Zoom over the last couple of years. So sometimes it's just really handy for them as well as us to get in the same room and get on the same sort of hymn sheet. We're all singing about the same thing at the end of the day.
Or even just to have a conversation over coffee, because when you do Zoom meetings, you have your meeting, then you go away.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic to be able to just be in a room together.
Just this lady's question over here.
Can I ask a question about your communication with schools? Because that is one of the biggest issues that parents have when they've got children on pathways. And you say it's needs-led.
Yeah.
Quite often it isn't, and they will only do anything if you have a diagnosis.
I guess my pushback, totally understand where you're coming from, because we hear this a lot. I think what we're trying to empower parents to do is to say, actually, you're wrong. It doesn't need a diagnosis, and I know that's difficult, and I guess that's where Sendais has come in, and Heidi's here as well, to actually help parents to have that conversation with schools.
And we are trying to empower schools via the Sendais network to
Yeah.
that this is something that they need to be doing and
Yeah.
not just waiting for a diagnosis.
Yeah, because we did link in with the Darlington Sencos because they went live in April, whereas we went live in October in County Durham. So we are working our way around the Senco networks as well to have those conversations.
That's why I've come up. If we can do the lady in the back in blue first.
Yeah.
From the point of actually getting to the centre is currently 2 years. Actually, to get to the centre in the first place is about a year. So in total, we're talking about 2 to 3 year wait list, and that's without consideration of other potential conditions. I would link onto the mental health and developmental as well. So there's I think there's a recognition of what we need, but it feels like there's a massive block in terms of time.
There was, yeah, we did have waiting lists, those of us who were around before COVID. I'm just in post since April, May time, so I haven't been here as long as other people to have all of the history, but we did have waiting lists before COVID, and what COVID did was we weren't able to do those face-to-face parts of autism and ADHD assessments that are essential for us to make sure that we do a good quality assessment that considers everything it needs to. So our waiting list did get longer. As Rachel mentioned, we have got some extra staff. Some of them are doing that pre-assessment work that previously had been done in a CAMS team. Some of them we're training up so we can offer more assessments, because I guess if we can do more assessments, we can start to get people through that journey quicker.
I think what the most important thing for me as a mum, I knew my youngest child was autistic before he was diagnosed, and we wouldn't let them diagnose him. At the time my son accessed OT services, and in County Durham historically, your child, if they were diagnosed with autism, no longer could access OT services, so we played the system. And we didn't let them actually diagnose my son until 4 years after we knew, when his brother was assessed. And for me, it's about getting that support right first. So whenever there's a need flagged and that referral goes forward, that's when this support should start in place. So I know lots of people are concerned about how long it takes to get there, but at that point, that's when the needs need to be picked up, and they need to be dealt with in schools, like you've seen. They need to accept at point of needs being met, assessed, they need to be met. Somebody said this is a problem, and whether you stick a label on it that says it's got peas or whether it's got chips, doesn't matter. That need still needs to be addressed, and hopefully through Heidi's work or through the work of other staff, we can start pulling that forward. Through parents' empowerment, I feel sorry for any school when you go home today, because you'll now know a lot more than they do. What we're giving you here is knowledge, it's power. Knowledge is power.
I'm looking at it from the side of the coin where my children are already diagnosed, have been for a number of years, but when I tried to access the service, because one of my relations is suffering with anxiety separate to this autistic diagnosis. Not only did I meet a wall, so did the GP who tried to re-refer, and I was told kind of discriminate against children who are already diagnosed because you can't really take them back on.
I think what I would say is, if that has happened to you, or you feel like that's happening to you, please get in touch with, well, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards if we want to talk. I think for me it's very difficult sometimes to have that balance between, say, anxiety, for example. Is it because of, or is it a mental health condition?
To the point of, it's anxiety, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's what I always say to clinicians. It's about what's in front of you.
To the autism, or whether it doesn't. The service is then there to be accessed, but it's very, very difficult. And you know what you get? To get an email back saying contact locals to contact Sendais. That's not going to help either.
That's right. For me, it's about what's in front. Like you were just saying, what's in front of you at the time. I know Rachel wants to come in there. So
I just want to jump in because you've raised a really good point. So I'll give you a little bit of background and then what we're doing going forward. So CAMS offer interventions for children and young people who do experience anxiety, you know, as well as other mental health issues. But we are not commissioned to provide interventions for children and young people who have issues related to autism. And where the sticking point is, it's not about us saying we're not going to provide that because you've got a diagnosis. The sticking point is that children and young people, well, and adults actually, with autism, to provide the interventions, the type of interventions that we offer, they don't really work. The efficacy is actually very low. So we often, very, very often have children and young people coming through to us who were receiving an intervention and for anxiety, and then it wasn't really helping. And then what happens is they say that it's not helping as much as what we kind of would expect it to, and that's where they've picked up some of the traits. So going forward, so I know I'm not saying that it's helpful, I'm just giving you some background, but going forward we are in the midst of having a look at some kind of interventions that we can provide that are for children and young people who, with or without a diagnosis of autism or ADHD, who are experiencing anxiety that might be related to some of those traits, where we can provide some kind of intervention or some kind of support across Durham for those children and young people, but it is a bit of a sticking point.
Laura was just going to come across.
I mean, it's really interesting.
Stand on that chair, Laura.
I guess, I think that is a really important point, and I guess it's interesting, because it is a challenging one to answer.
You know what, though, it makes the parent feel like they haven't got any help.
I totally agree.
And it's a time when you're absolutely desperate. You've had your diagnosis and you've been dropped like a hot potato.
And then you can
Played the system for 4 years, I know exactly about
I wish I could play the system. I wish I could play the system.
You should, and you know, it needs to improve. There's no doubt about that. You know, I think we all agree on that. What we are doing with this as well is we are thinking about what are the needs irrelevant to a diagnosis, and I think this is the part of this. There's a lot more things we're going to have to iron out, yeah. But I guess what I know is that it's not ideal and it's not appropriate, and we are working towards it.
But it's more really, Laura, I think more, what are the needs if you haven't got a diagnosis? Because when I ran, and I was talking about the anxiety, and that was all absolutely great until I went, but he's got autism, and then that all of a sudden was backtracked. Oh no, we can't help. You've already got a diagnosis. So
and the difficulty you've got, as the lady mentioned there, with the interventions that are currently trained and currently part of what they actually offer, so that core offer that CAMS offer. My son's one of the very, very many failed cases where they tried to do their standard intervention with my son who had hyper anxiety all the way through his life. And he's one of the ones where we've tried 4 different types of therapy and all of them have failed, and it's because of his autism. He hasn't got the flexibility of mind, the flexibility of thought to accept that process and to be part of it. But the problem we've got is going forward, we need something that fits those kids. No, but unfortunately, as the lady said, unfortunately it's about 10% of children actually respond to it.
Yes. I guess what I'm saying is that we do understand, and I guess it is an issue with the system, and that is not just one system, it's multiple systems and how they work together. But what we are doing now is that we are working really hard to have an open conversation where we can talk through those difficulties.
And it, I know it doesn't help here and now, I know that.
I think it's just when parents are at the lowest point, and you're being told, contact Sendais or what opposed to when you think your child is having some type of mental breakdown and needs real professional help. And the GP agrees with you, but you're being told a diagnosis.
There's no box that they fit in.
It's concerning.
I had a phone call where obviously came to my phone. She wouldn't talk to me. She wanted to send out to the medic. When I met the kids, she wanted on 7 days. She came on weekend, tried twice during the week, still got nobody. Didn't even let us leave a message or an answer what yours, no answer phone or nothing. By the time we got to the 7 days was up, we literally got a letter to be discharged. Because she didn't access the service. It wasn't that we didn't try to access it. And then after that, he wouldn't access it. I got the GP back and forth, but he wouldn't then I fell on board.
I think I've heard a similar experience about
Laura's around all the way through lunch. Lunch is getting served now. Do please, we're going to actually put her in a box so she can get 10 minutes for dinner. She just doesn't eat, and she just works all the way through dinner. She always does it.
Thank you for the invite again to the MCT conference. I know we've had such a disrupted couple of years now with COVID and lots of lockdowns, lots of changes. It's fantastic to see everybody in this room together and socialising, being around the tables, getting on. That's great, because actually when we're working with special educational needs, that's what it's all about. It's that connectivity. It's making sure that services can work together, that parents do communicate, services work with parents as well in that co-productive environment, that makes the positivity happen. That's been really challenging for everybody, I think, over the period of time. So I know that you'll have felt those frustrations, both as parents and as professionals over the last year. I would say on reflection, from my side of things, I've been absolutely flabbergasted at how well people have just hit the ground running really quickly, adapted into that environment, worked in digital formats, digital frameworks, and actually we've learned a little bit from that. That's my view. I think in some instances parents are coming to us and saying, actually we prefer that, that's easier for us. It's easy because of getting children back home, making sure that the routines fit in, if we're going to have meetings, multi-agency, different bits of work. Great, fantastic. Okay, so we'll look to continue that. We want to keep that piece of work going on, and we want to give you as parents options. So actually if you want to meet in a room, that's better for you. You feel actually eyeball to eyeball, face to face is going to get you further. Great, that offer is there. But actually if it's a digital catch up, yeah, let's keep that communication going as well. So I'm feeling a little bit. It's better than me singing a song, okay? And my dancing's worse than my singing, so we'll save there. I know Amy has been working trying to get my presentation on there, but for some reason we've got a little bit of issue there with the presentation, so you're going to struggle to see it, I think. So what we'll do is we'll make sure you get a copy sent out in your packs as well. But I'll do my best just to talk through really where we're going with this piece of work in the local area in County Durham. So I'm here today. I've been introduced as Paul Shadforth. That is my name, that's great. My job title on top of that. So I'm the Strategic Manager for Special Educational Needs and Disabilities, Strategy, Assessment and Provision. Okay, that's within the local authority. So in terms of day-to-day work, I have a range of different teams in my service area, including Send casework, which many of you might know and have worked with. But also I have different services as well. So I have equalities and intervention, I have English as an additional language, I have a range of different educational facilities within my service area. That's what I do on a day-to-day operationally. But one of my other key roles, and this has been a key role since I came into post in 2016, I think, something along those lines, is to try and connect partnership within the area, to try and get this agenda on other people's radar a little bit more. And what I would say on reflection, and this is not down to me, it's down to everybody coming along to that conversation, is it's a world of difference these days. The amount of people who are engaged in this piece of work is really significant. Now, in order for us to engage and to keep that going forward, and rather than have lots of people going off in starbursts, running away doing what they think is helpful, we have to have a Send strategy for the area. Now, a strategy is, if you'll all be aware, and you'll all be aware from your own personal experiences, professional experiences, and the experiences of your friends, that actually when we're dealing with special educational needs, there's lots of different people who are involved in this. Yes, schools, absolutely, they are key to all of this, but there are then the connected services that support schools, so from your educational psychology services, your specialist intervention teams, your Sendais service that are out there as well, your voluntary community sector that's out there, your short breaks, your social care, your health services, and I'm just going to say health. I know Laura's in the room there. I won't reel them all off, Laura, but there's dozens, there's a whole universe worth of health services out there as well. Now, if we don't have a collective vision and set of aims across those people, it's not going to come together, okay? So we're trying to work towards that, and what I'm going to present to you is where we're at with that strategy. So we're redeveloping that strategy now. So really quickly, SEND strategy, I've given you a little bit of context there, but we'll be going through the background of the SEND strategy, how we've got to where we're at now today, what we've done previously, and actually the current working context for SEND strategy. I'll be looking at the overview of a vision and aim. So what I'll be explaining in the context is how we've got to this point of having a vision and aim statement. Then we'll be looking at what action we're going to take to make things happen. Okay, so lots of things have been happening, lots of things continue to happen, but we know there's a lot more to be done as well. So we'll go through how we're going to go through that process. Okay. So I just wanted to start with this slide here just to give you a bit of context for County Durham as well. So when we're talking about special educational needs, we're not just talking about children with educational healthcare plans, children and young adults now with educational healthcare plans. So we have nearly 4,000 educational healthcare plans in the system at the moment. Now, as they're spread out, as those plans are spread out, we can see that there's around about, yeah, it's on the slide there, just over 2,000 young people who are school-aged. Now, it doesn't take much to figure out, well, where are the rest of them? So some are in the earliest years, yes, not very many, but the rest are in the post-16 sector. That's changed massively. So since I started, I mentioned 2016, in the post-16 sector, we had, I think, up to the age of 18, we had 80 young people with an educational healthcare plan in the post-16 sector. Obviously, the age range has increased now, so it moves up to 25 years, but we now have close to 1,300 young people in the post-16 sector, so over a third. So we have a third in primary, a third in secondary, a third in post-16 sector. That's a great achievement, but it does mean that the world has changed in terms of how we support services. So it gives you a bit of context of how things have changed in such a short space of time. Moving on from this, when we're talking about special educational needs, we're not just talking about those with educational healthcare plans. So for all of the parents in the room and all the professionals as well, you ought to have gone through a graduated approach to have your child's needs understood and met. Okay, and in a graduated approach, there's a stage before educational healthcare plan. Well, there's a couple, but typically there's a SEND support plan as well. So we have nearly 11,000, slightly less now, so sort of around about the 10,000 mark of children and young people with SEND support plans in schools. So I know we've got some teachers, ex-teachers in the room as well. Basically what a SEND support plan is, when a school's determined your child has special educational needs, they'll work with you to understand those needs, put provision in place, and make things happen for the child. That's what ought to be what happens. Then for those who require it, educational healthcare plans come in. So already you can see that we're talking about 14,000 to 15,000 young people already within County Durham, which is a really significant part of our population. Okay, so I'm trying to get everybody aware of just the size of this agenda. This is not just about a small group of young people, it's a significant part of our population within county. What I would say, I'll dwell on this, I always get called out for doing data and stats all the time, so I'm not going to put graphs on, I'm just trying to tee off with the numbers here a little bit. We're not really an outlier in County Durham, so it's not as if we've got a substantial more or less children and young people with educational healthcare plans and SEND support plans. This is nationally the case, so we see typically that's the proportion of young people in England within this system who are recognised as having special educational needs. So it's not just a Durham thing, it's actually we're in line with what's going on nationally. So the last point there is the increase. Yes, there are increased. There are more numbers in both educational healthcare plans and in SEND support plans than there were previously. Part of that's because of the 0.25, but if I just think now, and rather than just look at that total figure, the amount coming in the system, we're seeing far higher demand for educational healthcare plans than we've ever seen as a percentage, and a number of people coming through for new educational healthcare plans. We're not seeing the same uplift within SEND support planning. So what that's telling me is, okay, what do we need to do with our schools to help them, and what do we need to do with our parents to help them be confident within that SEND support, okay, and make sure that needs can be met and swiftly dealt with as quickly as we can. An educational healthcare plan is just a document at the end of the day. It just illustrates provision. A SEND support plan can do the same thing. So if that's appropriate, then we look to provide that. So, never get away without putting graphs on if I'm doing it. Okay, dead complicated. What I thought was really, really helpful, again, in context, in background context for strategy, just understand where our children are. Okay, and what you've got here is two charts. The one on the left hand side is January, and the one on the right hand side is October. Okay, and what this shows in blue are how many young people are in a mainstream school, and in yellow how many young people are in a special school if they have an educational healthcare plan. Okay, and what you can see is that the left hand side bar, okay, is primary school, and the right hand side bar is secondary school. So you can see just how many young people with an educational healthcare plans with complex needs are managing to have their needs met in primary school and not requiring specialist provision, but by the time we get to secondary school, oomph. So we lose, we're about 50% in primary school. In secondary schools, we're around about we're less than 25%. That's increasing, and we're raising that, which is great, but there's more that we can do to make our schools more inclusive and helping and see those adaptations and create those environments and give parents and schools the confidence that they can do this for our young people, because we're managing that. Okay, so there is a bit of work for us to do there. Okay, so strategy. Giving you the background, giving you an idea of why we need a strategy, okay? And I'm not going to dwell on this slide too much, but essentially, we've got all of those partnerships, and the biggest part of that partnership is with our children and young people and with parents as well. So we need a strategy that informs and supports what we do professionally. We need a strategy that enables us to understand where progress is being made. Lots of complex things going on here. If we just keep on doing what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got. So we need to understand when we're progressing, when we're keeping on moving forward, so we have to keep that performance under tight wraps, and the strategy focuses you in on that. We also need to identify what we need to do, and we need a strategy that promotes inclusion at every step of the way. And I've given you a bit of context as to why that inclusion is so important. So it's really essential that this strategy that we move forward on achieves all of those different things. Now, for it to be relevant, I can't sit in a darkened room and go, right, get me pen, write the best strategy that anybody's ever read, because at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper, even if it is well written. A strategy has to be developed with all of the stakeholders that are in train with that. So what we've been doing since June of this year is engaging all those stakeholders, all those professional stakeholders, but children and young people as well, and parents and carers, just to try and hone in on our strategy and make sure that we're doing the right things, okay? We're focused on the right things to make good progress, okay? So, where are we at? Okay, so why do we do this other than it's the right thing to do? Actually, we do have an existing SEND strategy. It ran out of time, okay? It ran out of time in 2021, the end of 2020, I think it was. But we have had COVID to develop. We didn't think it was the right thing to go into a strategic planning cycle while everybody was dealing with COVID. So we've dealt with this over 2021. So that's why there's been a bit of a pause, a bit of a delay on that. But actually we need to acknowledge where we're at as well. So we have the regulators in every now and then. So we've had Ofsted, they came and visited us back in January 2021. It's important that we draw a line on that strategic piece of work, because we've done lots of improvement there. It was really well recognised in Ofsted and CQC. We're now on the good step, we're off the naughty step, which is really helpful for us. So that's great for everybody. That's a bit facetious actually. You know, the Ofsted and CQC, when they came in, they pointed out some really key areas for us to improve. That was really helpful for everybody in this room because it really focused the attention of a range of different partners who then came to the table and have made those improvements, and that's been evidenced. So we're ready to do something different, we're ready to move forward, okay? The work that we've done on the strategy, really quickly, methodology, I've kind of covered it already. Lots of engagement with stakeholders, really asking people about, we use a term called theory of change, okay? So we start to look at, okay, well, what do you need, what's happening, what's working well for you, what you're concerned about, what needs to change, what action should we take? Okay, so it's essentially going through a bit of a stage process. Okay, now we have to ask those questions in lots of different ways. You would agree it would be different if I was sat speaking to a whole bunch of head teachers and asking those questions, as if I was sat speaking to the extreme group of children and young people. You have to find ways to pitch that, but generally we've got all of the feedback from that. And what we found, and we're really pleased with this, is a really common ground, okay, for strategic development, and that is a vision statement which is here now, which I'm going to leave on the screen. I'm not going to read it out in full. It'll come into your packs, okay? But this vision statement, all of those different organisations that we're talking about are signing up to this vision statement. They want the same thing as we want, and children and young people want, and parents and carers want, okay? Which is exactly the same for children and young people with SEND as it is for every other child. We want the best opportunities for them to learn, for them to develop, for them to be prepared for adulthood, okay? And move forward within their life. We know that to do that, they need their needs recognised, and they need to be met, and there needs to be adaptations in place. Key to this, and this came out in the consultation, and we didn't want it to go unsaid, so we've put another little line on the bottom of that vision statement about communication. Okay, what we found is that no matter what we do, no matter how good that piece of work is, that adaptation, that programme, that aid, that whatever's going on there, it's no good if there isn't a strong relationship between the people who are delivering that, the child and the family. And actually, that's where a lot of this falls between the gaps, is where actually those communications break down. Senkos are telling that, school leaders are telling us that, parents are telling us that loud and clear, and children and young people are telling us that loud and clear. So everybody wants to work better and communicate better. So that's a really important piece in our vision statement. We've then got a series of aims for the strategy. So how are we going to achieve a vision statement? All right, saying that, that's great. Okay, so what do we aim to do? Okay. We want all of our young people to have the opportunity to attend their local school, the school that's right to meet their needs. Okay, we want them to have that opportunity. Okay, we want to work closely with families and children and young people to develop resilience. And when we talk about resilience, it's those things that help young people move on into preparing them for their adult life. Okay, so that's really important that all of our work focuses on that. Communication in there. We want to listen to children and young people, what they're telling us, and we want to make those changes. We want to hear their voice loud and clear in everything that we're doing. We want to identify gaps in a timely way. We see in some instances there's delay in the system, services just not coming in at the right time. That erodes confidence, and then suddenly we end up with something over the top when actually we could have done something earlier that would have been more satisfactory in helping people. We want all educations and their workforce to be confident in making those adaptations to meet the needs. That requires training, development, understanding, okay? A range of different services to do that. We want to ramp that up over this period. We want, in terms of them doing that, in turn we see the knock-on impact. A confident school equals a confident parent. Any school that'll turn around and say, we've got your back, we understand your child, we can meet their needs, a parent's going to say, great, and they're going to work with them. A school that turns around and doesn't do that, that's really problematic. Sorry.
Quite a few schools, money-wise, cost-wise, won't acknowledge the kids got SEND because it costs them money to do that work and get that education healthcare plan. So that's why parents are pushed to the brink and end up having to do parent referral and feed in all the other services to figure out where to go. Parents' first point of call was always going to be the school, and for the school to dismiss, because that's what they do, they dismiss the parents' concerns. Oh, there's nothing wrong, and pretend it's not there because it's cost for them to do it, for them to do the paperwork.
Yeah, we do understand that there are the code of practice, the SEND code of practice is not just a code of practice for local authorities, it includes schools as well.
But until a parent knows that.
I appreciate that, and we need to work on that communication, because that's it, what you're saying there is exactly the point that I'm making in this strategy. It's not working, we need to work on that communication, because in some instances that's the experience. What we find is that there's more funding going out to schools to meet children's needs than there ever has been before. So in terms of mainstream schools now, we're paying out over £11 million a year in top-up funding arrangements for mainstream schools to meet needs, which is really significant. Only 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was around about 7 million. So it's going up and up because we want them to be confident, but we need them all to be confident, and we don't want those situations. Okay. The final thing is that joining up of support. Okay, we've talked about how complex this is. We need to make sure that the strategy is there. Are you? Oh, okay.
If I have to throw them, that means you've done too long. But
okay. Okay. I know, and I am frightened. I am frightened of Marsha. You never know what's going to happen. So. And to be fair, we've had some other people in MCT that was even more random things that could happen in MCT conference. Okay, so that's generally our sets of aims that all of those organisations will be working towards. But what I did say is aims for inclusion as well. Okay, so what do we want for children and young people? We've talked about what we want for all of the organisations to do, but what do we want for our children and young people? We want them to be present in school, okay, and we want schools to be focused on that presence. We want them to be able to participate fully in school, so it's not just about being on roll, it's about putting the right adaptations in place, getting the right resources so they can participate. We want them to achieve, but achieve at a level that's relevant to them, okay, not to be dragged through different things that are unnecessary, but actually that's right for them and prepares them. We want them to feel as if they belong, and we want them to be independent. Okay, so these are all great words, right? Lots of different strategy. Where are we at now? Conscious of time, don't worry, I'm going to be there. It's panto season, we've all got to do a little bit of this on this. Okay, so I'm going to, rather than go through, the slide will go through, so we won't go through any of it. What are we going to do about that next? So all of these organisations have signed up to this through the strategic partnership. We'll be taking the strategy through to full council. So we want the local authority at the highest level to sign this off. That will mean that they back it as well as a local authority fully, and we will take that to council in January. Okay, we'll be taking it to all the CCG membership, full management boards. They'll be signing it off, and they're geared up to sign it off as well. That will be around about the January time as well. But all of the organisations that we've mentioned are working individually and together on action sets on what they're going to do to achieve those goals, and we'll be collecting that together, and we'll be publishing that on the local office so you all get a chance to see it and you all say, right, okay, we're moving forward. We'll keep working with you. We do that because Making Changes Together work with us, and they're on all of our management boards and our steering groups. Keep on letting us know the experience that you're having out there. Sendais providers and challenges us all of the time in the experiences of parents and carers. We listen to that. We've got to make sure we respond to that as well. So keep that loop open. I hope that gives you confidence in terms of where we're going with this and gives you a bit of time frame of what next. Okay.
Are we having a party when you launch it?
We can do, yeah, we can, yeah. Well,
what about the next conference that becomes a launch event for it?
Do you know what? What a great idea. Why don't we look at a launch?
Yeah, because that means they've got to pay for it. Sorry.
On Marsha's bill. Okay, right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Picture we've got on there is some of the sessions that are going on in our centre at the moment. I'm just going to give you a really small introduction to kind of who we are and how we came about, really. We have been running Relax Kids Durham sessions now probably for about 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, working in a primary school for 10 to 15 years, supporting children with additional needs. Both Emma and I'm up here and Emma's over there,
to warn me when the balls are going to come my way. She's going to wave when I need to just stop. So Emma and I met, I'm not going to go into the long story because I could go for weeks on this one, and we both had the same passion and desire to support children, young people, adults with emotional well-being, mental well-being, and everything that we didn't get as young people, and everything that our children were struggling to get as well. So we this all came about because of our personal experiences with mental health, because of our children's experience with additional needs and being autistic, and many other things as well. In 2018, we formed Live Well North East as a KIC, so not-for-profit organisation, and we deliver our Relax Kids sessions through that. We deliver fitness sessions through Go Forth Fitness. Everything we do is based on supporting physical health, mental health, and overall well-being, because if you do a little bit of everything, it can really make you feel good and make some improvements. I could waffle on for a very, very long time, so I'm not, and we're just going to go into a bit more of a session for you, for things that you can do to support your young people, for things that you can do to support yourself and anybody really. So it's a little bit of time just for you, but I'm going to go right down to the basics with our little cuddly toys, and if anyone wants to volunteer, this would be great. Would anyone like to hold our lovely cuddly toys? We've got an owl, a meerkat and an elephant. I'm really hoping someone chucks their hand up in the air. There we go, there's an owl. Probably shouldn't throw them. There's a meerkat. Go on, there we go. We know, obviously from experience, there's so many technical jargons going on, so we stick with 3 very simple things to explain everything that goes on in your brain. We know there's lots of technical terms, but I really can't pronounce the majority of the words. So we're going to start with the owl. We'd like to wave that owl up in the air. What are owls known to be? Yes, try saying that to a class of 7-year-olds. Doesn't get wise. Nocturnal, they eat worms, they do this. I'm like, come on, wise, please. Owls are known to be wise, and this part of your brain is the front part of your brain that's responsible for your thinking, your doing, your getting things done, your processing, all of that technical stuff. Then we've got our lovely elephant. Give the elephant a wave. Or give the elephant a wave to the audience, yeah. What are elephants known to never? Yeah, so there we go. That is your memory part of your brain. So that is your fancy words, your hippocampus, and that is where all your memories are stored. That's where you recall things. If you're doing your times table, like what's 5 times 5? Oh, well done. Brilliant. That's where your recall comes from, and you're able to recall things really quickly. Last part here is the meerkat. Bit of a trickier one. What could our meerkat part of the brain be? Anyone? Insurance. Ooh, insurance. That's a good one. Lots of voices there. I'm just going to shout it out, and I'm just going to say very quickly, I'm having some hearing issues at the moment, so if I don't hear you, that's because my tinnitus is going a bit wild at the moment, a bit like my meerkat going. Meerkat, we'd say that's the middle part of your brain, just around about your ears. It's your fight or flight. That is the part that you are responsible for, produces a stress hormone, cortisol. It is alert, just like that. It is alert. It's always on the lookout. I don't know whether you 3 would like to come and stand up with these little animals. No, I'll stand with the elephant. That's fine. So we'll just get a little bit lively here. We can't have them together, you see. So the meerkat is going to be at the front of our line. Owl behind, elephant over here. I'll stand here though so we can see. Basically, when anyone's meerkat is at large, when you're stressed, when that stress hormone cortisol's flooding your body, it's stopping your owl, it's stopping your elephant, it's stopping everything from thinking straight. You can't, I've just realised you probably can't hear us. It's stopping everything from thinking straight and working well. So all of the tools and techniques and strategies we use in all of our sessions, from young people, you can sit down now. It's fine. From young people to adults to children, is giving you tools and techniques to help calm down that meerkat, to allow the other parts of your brain to function, because we know if you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you're worried, even if you're incredibly excited, sometimes you just can't think straight. So that's basically, hopefully, a short introduction to the brain. And I am going to completely keep looking at Emma to tell me when to keep moving on. Moving on now? Right. So what we're going to do now is, it's a little bit fun, this one. You've all got notepads in front of you. Get a pen, write down anything that stresses you out, your child out, anything you want. We're not going to read them, I'm literally going to chuck them straight in the bin afterwards. When you've got a few, you can come and chuck them in this bucket here. If you want to chuck them in, you can do whatever you want. Think of all the things that might just stress you out. Make that meerkat come at large. It's probably the practical side when I was thinking of this was that it'll work really well and we can all fill that bucket really quick, but it might take a long time and I don't want to go too long on this. So we'll probably just pretend.
Does anybody want to put anything in the box?
Perfect. I think Heidi's going to walk around and collect your stresses there. Excellent. And I'm pretty confident if we had time we could probably fill quite a few of these buckets as well. We'll give you a bit of a minute to get those stresses chucked in there. Continue to write them down. We might be asking for some more paper. That's it. I forgot about them. Scrumple it up, chuck it in. So while the bucket is heading around the room, I'll just explain a little bit more about that. You probably know some of these things as well. Thank you. I can hear my own voice now. Yeah. I really hope you all heard those last 5 minutes. So yes, your bucket, everybody's stress bucket will get full. It's inevitable in life we are going to have stressors. We're going to have stressors that we can't control at all. What's really important for yourself, for young people, for children, for anyone you know, is to have some really good ways to empty that stress bucket, to use things to support your own well-being. To help empty that stress bucket. You'll see in front of you, you've all got cards on the table. We're not going to go into detail on these because, yet again, I could talk for quite a while. They are the 5 ways to well-being, and they are really, really good ways to help reduce stress and to help get that stress level into a manageable level rather than it overspilling all of the time. We need this is good. This is good. Thank you very much. So we've got that the stress bucket is full there. So we are now going to head into another part of what we do in many of our sessions, whether that be teaching a fitness class, whether that be a session for teenagers, for adults, is a little bit of movement. We aren't going to get you to stand up and move around because we know that can be a little bit tricky at times. But well, if you want to stand, go for it. I would love for you all to stand, but we know that might be a bit tricky at times. So if you're sitting right now, just for a few seconds, we're going to do a few movements that, yet again, by moving, it releases that stress hormone, cortisol, and gets it out of your body. So sitting in your chair, just move your head gently from side to side. You can move it up and down as well. Excellent. Brilliant. And then we're just going to roll our shoulders a little bit. Well done. And then I'm going into fitness instructor mode with the well done. You're doing well. There's arms. Just wiggle your hips a little bit. Brilliant. Just get moving. This is a nice kind of chilled movement here. And again, everything we're doing now, you could use with your child. You could use with your teenager. You may need to adapt what you do in here. And again, it's a really good way to help release that cortisol from your body. After we have moved, we're going to do a little bit more movement, so we're going to shake our hands. Let's give your hands a little shake. And when I say freeze, we will freeze, funnily enough. And freeze, brilliant. And again, give them a good shake, releasing any tension. Really good one we do is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 shake. But we're not going to do that here, it involves standing. Freeze, brilliant. One more time, get rid of it. Get rid of all that excess energy, and that is instantly helping me feel a little bit calmer standing up here. Freeze, brilliant. Simple technique to just get it all out. Quite often, my 14-year-old, trying to get him to school, I will get him to stand at the front door and do a full body shake just to help him get in that zone a little bit more. When there's obviously loads of forms of movement, getting active and moving is amazing to help you feel good. Whether that is just simply going for a walk, whether it's stepping outside, getting a breath of fresh air, whether it's going to a fitness class, whether it's doing any form of movement, you can do, and it's really, really good to try and help encourage that with anyone who needs it. We're going to do a lovely stretch now, and this time I am going to invite you to stand up. You absolutely don't have to. We're not doing any yoga poses or anything. We're just going to have a simple stretch. If you want to stand up, stand up. Phew, we have a few people. Excellent. We've been sat on the chairs for quite a while. We need to stretch. So we're just going to simply stand up straight. We're going to roll our shoulders a little bit. Fantastic. And stretch your hands up right in the air. Brilliant. Stretching forward. Again, stretching to the side. Or maybe you don't want to whack anyone. Back to the front. Well done. Up into the sky. Stretching releases cortisol again. It gets rid of that stress hormone, and it can be as simple as just standing up doing a little stretch. You know it makes you feel good when you're stretching. I reckon we can just move to the side as well. Yeah. It's quite impressive what you can get people to do when you have a microphone. You're doing really well. Excellent. And bring it down, roll your shoulders back and sit down. I don't want to push me luck. Really don't want to push me luck. And absolutely no clue how I'm doing for time. All right? Okay, excellent. I'm not sure which way to look how I'm doing for time, that way or that way. All right. So another one, and this one is really good for younger children. It's actually really nice for yourself. We're going to give yourself a little bit of a hug. So again, sitting down, stretch your hands out. Bring them across and just give yourself a hug. Little fact, these parts of your arms, I'm not going to get technical with the names because I can't remember them right now. When you when you have pressure on these parts of your arms, having a hug, it releases such a feel-good feeling. So if no one's there to give you a hug, just give yourself one. Stretch your hands out, bring them back round, and just a really big squeeze. Makes you feel secure, it helps you feel good. Oh, everyone's hugging everyone. That is lovely. That is another lovely stretch you can do. Can be really quite good if your child might not want to be touched and they might not want a hug. Just try to get them to do it themselves as well. That is lovely. So that's fab. Another thing we do in many of our sessions is massage. It's really good. We have steered away from peer massage now. It is all just self. I mean, where are we at now? What do we do if we need a little bit of a break? Where would we love to go? I think it's over there. The spa. And have a lovely massage. That's because it works. It releases the stress hormone cortisol, which you're never going to forget that word cortisol by the time we're finished here. Gets rid of that stress hormone and makes you feel good. So get your hands. I'm going to give them a little bit of a wiggle. And just gently, just tap your head. Any of these little techniques can be really good just to break a cycle. If your child's in a moment of anxiety, if you suddenly say, can you just put your hands on your head and tap them, you've just maybe distracted them straight away. A little bit of head massage, brilliant. We're going to come round and go into a bit of a face massage as well. So use your fingers and we're going to very gently, for working with children, might say, imagine you're drawing a bit of a butterfly on your face. So we're going round your eyes, heading round into your nose. Nearly forgot what it was called there. Brilliant. Coming round into your cheeks and heading down. And it's just a little moment to help you feel a little bit more relaxed. Excellent. Well done. Another good one is hand massage. I was doing this probably about 10 minutes ago, sitting at the table, giving my hand a little massage. It's a really good pressure point that sends signals to your brain to help you calm down. It's really, really handy to use. It is really quite amazing when we work in schools that we've worked with children who are in reception, and then we go back, see them in year 6, and they're still using some of these techniques now, and it's pretty fantastic to see that these do work quite well. Again, it gets rid of the tension. We'll give our shoulders a little squeeze as well. Little bit of, these are things that we all know work, and we all know what to do, but we often don't. We often forget. You hold so much tension in your shoulders. Children hold so much tension in your shoulders. They don't, when we do this, they are just fascinated at how good it can actually feel. You might find they prefer tapping. You might prefer tapping or just gently brushing. And if it works for you, just do whatever works for you there. So I think we have covered a bit of our stretching and massage section. I have a huge amount of notes going on here. I like to have a lot of information in front of me. We're going to head into breathing techniques now, and you'll see again on your card we've got probably hundreds of these to just give to everyone because they're so handy. Breathing techniques, as I'm sure most of you will be aware, are a really, really good way filling your body up with oxygen, reducing that stress hormone cortisol, getting it out of your body by doing deep breathing techniques. It can be incredibly hard to do it when you're in the moment. It's a good technique to model with people. What we'll often do with young people, adults of all ages, you've always got your hand. It's very handy. Anyone? No. That works in schools really well. Yeah, you've got your hand, incredibly handy to use. So a really good breathing technique that we'll do now is another one you can do with people you're working with yourself at any point. Maybe you don't want to stand in the middle of the supermarket and do a breathing technique like that. Is we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose as we go up our thumb, and breathe out as you go down. 5 times is always a key, which is really quite interesting. 5 ways to well-being. All of these 5 times can really help to control your breathing, lower anxiety and stress as well. So if we take a deep breath in and breathe out. Fantastic. Breathe in. Breathe out. Well done. Breathe in. Breathe out. Excellent. Breathe in and out. Excellent. Breathe in and out. You may have noticed that you might be feeling just a little bit calmer there. It's a fantastic technique that you can use anytime. Deep breathing again always helps with everything, but like I've said, it can be quite tricky if your child's in a moment to get them to do that, but if you can model it and help them to copy, it's really handy. Where am I at now? I'm just checking my notes here. Have we got time for the grounding technique? We have, so perfect. I'm pretty sure you'll have all heard of grounding techniques as well. And actually, quite honestly, we've been in places where people haven't heard of it. Another technique we use constantly in absolutely anything is a grounding technique. And on the back of your card, there's a little cue here in how to do it. It gives that distraction. It gives that instant kind of distraction straight away to whatever's going on. The technique we use is again called the grounding technique. I've just said that. It is starting with your sight. So you would stop, look around and think of 5 things you can see. Let's have some people shouting them out. Try and have a look a little bit deeper, something a little bit less obvious in the room. And has anyone... Perfect. Anyone else want to shout one out? Some perfect.
I can see the beer.
I like that one. I do like that one. That's good. That's good. So there's your 5 things you can see. 4 things you can hear.
Air conditioning.
Yeah. Aircon. Anything else? Yeah.
That kitchen.
Yep.
The humming from the fans.
Yep.
There's a floor squeaks and moves.
Yep. Excellent. 4 things you can hear. 3 things you can touch or feel. Air conditioning. Excellent. 2 things you can smell.
I still smell food, sorry.
Yeah. Smells lovely. And 1 thing you can taste.
Sweets on the table.
Excellent, excellent. 5, using these 5 ways to have a grounding technique is absolutely brilliant. It just distracts you from the moment, distracts anyone you're working with from the moment, and it just shuts your brain off for a little bit. It's a very, very good technique to use. We have covered that, and we're going to head into a little bit of affirmations and positive thinking. As adults and children, it's so hard to think of positive things about yourself. It is, we've done this many a times, and we can rhyme off all of the hard things, the negative things, but to rhyme off all of those amazing positive qualities you've got is incredibly tricky. I'm not going to start asking you all to start rhyming any off, but practicing positive affirmations is something we always teach people, and again, we'll often do this in any session that we run, whether it's fitness, whether it's well-being, whether it's our little groups. It really helps you feel empowered. On our little cards, it's a little reminder on the front, I am. You can think of an affirmation that you want to use, and striking it up with sort of doing a power pose as well can be really helpful to make you feel confident when you're doing things. I'm not sure if I've got time for an affirmation story or not. I'll cut it really. Oh, have I? This is excellent.
The raffle and the things won't take.
Oh, that's perfect then. A little story. This is a really good one that I've probably spoke about for 10 years now, so poor Emma is probably sick of hearing it. That was a little half nod. Affirmations can be really powerful. One of the examples we use is a very famous footballer who has just moved to the UK. Does anybody know who he might be? Well, yeah, like that was just instant. Ronaldo, positive affirmations. He has been saying he's the greatest footballer in the world since he was probably 4 or 5. Before he could even kick a ball properly, he always said he's going to be the greatest footballer in the world. I am the greatest footballer in the world. It was a positive belief he's had from being young, and no matter what he was told, no matter what barriers he faced, no matter what was going on, he always firmly believed it, and he constantly worked hard. Quite often in the press he'd be called arrogant because of this attitude he has. If you ever get a chance to watch the Ronaldo documentary, it's really good, and it shows how having that firm belief in yourself can really overcome so many barriers. And it's not being arrogant, it's just working hard at what you need to do. The good example that we get our children to do, and I think we're just going to go for it here. If you want to stand up, you can. Oh, not many. That's absolutely fine. Oh, there we've got one. That's fine. We'll stand up. We're not doing anything technical. We're going to put our hands on our hips. So before Ronaldo takes a goal, again, this is a really good way to talk about it. Takes a goal, scores a goal. Takes a goal, so he usually gets them anyway, doesn't he? But this is a really good way to talk about it to young people, because everyone kind of knows what he does here. He will stand, he'll go into a power pose with his hands on his hips. He'll stand there in the area where he's about to take a penalty. World could be watching him, but what he does, he stops, power pose, he takes 3 deep breaths. So we shall do our 3 deep breaths. Breathe in and out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Hopefully that wasn't 4. He'll take a couple of seconds just to compose himself, to forget about whatever's going on around him and to focus on that goal post, and he shoots. Most of the time he scores, and that's because he's shut out everything. He's used his positive affirmations, used a breathing technique, and he's firmly believed he can do it. And you have just done one as well, so you can sit down now. No, it's a bit hard standing up. But again, it's a really good, and there's so many examples of so many different ways that positive affirmations can help you in things that you do. Absolutely can't hear you.
Trying to tell them about some of us.
Yes, that will be perfect. And this is where I'm going to use our picture. Oh, it's gone off. It's gone off. So you'll have in your packs, you've got a little picture of our centre. I know we've had a lot of people asking about the things that we do. We run sessions for children, young people, adults, and we've evolved over the years, and we are absolutely led by our community, led by people, and we will do our best, if we're not running it, to find funding to be able to run these things. Most of our sessions, we have a lot of funded sessions, we have subsidised sessions as well. We are funded by Children in Need to run Live Well Kids, which is after school sessions, 4 nights a week, fully inclusive for all children. 50p donation, which if you haven't got 50p, that is absolutely fine, and everything's based around the 5 ways to wellbeing. The children have a fantastic session with the friends, and we always just drip feed all of these little things in, and they're just, as you can see in the corner there, they love it. They are smiling all the time. We run sessions in schools. We go into a lot of schools in and around County Durham. Probably worked with some of your children here, delivering Relaxed Kids sessions. For our older children, we developed Resilience Boot Camp, and it's been fantastic. We know with sort of secondary age children, it's really hard to engage and to go to any of these sessions. Resilience Boot Camp is where we have a 15 to 20 minute kind of movement. It's led by the children again, if they want to do a bit dodgeball. Crab football's the latest one we're doing. It's very energetic and a bit hard for us. And then we go into a bit of a well-being, you know, helping them understand what anxiety is, helping them understand emotions and moods and how you can manage them as well. We were really fortunate to get funding from the National Lottery for 3 years, which is our Live Strong programme, and that's for adults, because we know as adults we never have time for ourselves, so we wanted to have a programme that is just for you guys, for adults to come along. Any of the sessions, you don't have to come to all of them, you can drop into one, come back 3 months later to another one, where we have mindfulness sessions, we have free yoga sessions, we have Be Connected sessions where it's just come and have a cup of tea and a bit of cake, and that is always good. We run fitness classes again as well. Often we have a fitness class and then we have a coffee and cake session afterwards, so it works. It's all about the balance. The picture in the middle is one of our Be Connected sessions. One of the biggest things we found was so many people want to exercise, but childcare is a really huge issue. So we were able to run sessions where we have our fitness sessions upstairs, and our little children have a lovely play session downstairs as well. Then afterwards we all come together and we might do some mindful crafts. We might just have a gossip and a cup of tea as well. We have our boxing club, which is in front of our centre. Again, something we are incredibly passionate about. Sometimes there's a lot of stigma related with boxing, but we found it is personally our biggest stress relief and a really, really good benefit for children and young people as well. What else? We've got a bit of everything going on. So yeah, we basically have evolved from running sessions for primary age children and adults with one sort of thing, and we are running a lot of different things where we can support the whole family, both with physical health and mental well-being. We do have an open day next week, so you are more than welcome to pop along and just have a nosy around. Beautiful buildings that were old cooperative buildings similar to the ones in Beamish, and we fortunately had funding to convert them into our little centre. I think, is that it? I've probably waffled on, I've probably went off a little bit through my script, but email us, drop us a message. We are here and we are absolutely really keen to work with as many people as we can, and we just know working together is absolutely the best thing we can all do together. Didn't work. Thank you.